Welcome to Money Match Thursday's Road to Money Match Thursday. I'm your host, Weasel, and joining me is my always host, Chad, or Just Frame Hot Pocket.
Bang bang.
And today we have two special guests with us because our other commentators, Tato and Ham, they couldn't be here today, unfortunately. But today we have Fox Juzamain. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Yeah, there he is. Infamous. And then we have on the other end the famous Janet Kazama Perny Jews Danielson as
Fuck
our
that is.
fourth one. Hell yeah. It's good to have you here. It's like a
Good to be here.
legend come to life.
That implies I was dead.
Well, you never know these days. Anyways, moving on. So, short introductions, but we have the awesome radar charts created here by Just Frame Hot Pocket. Do you want to go ahead and explain to us your thoughts that went into these?
Absolutely. So first of all, we have it's going to end up being our second matchup tonight to accommodate for another streamer schedule. So Irfan versus Fervent Four Eyes. These guys will go second. They'll probably start around 9:30 Central Time. But I absolutely love this matchup because I'm not sure how many different points you can be so different. So for people who don't know Irfan, MNT player, probably just one of the wildest, most unorthodox Tekken players you will ever run into. Plays Josie and he plays Hwoarang. And that unorthodox play style and that complete disregard for any sort of rules of Tekken is kind of what makes him a giant killer. What does he do traditionally well? Well, he plays that Josie rush very well. He understands her pokes. He understands what goes into what. He doesn't really know how plus he is. He just knows he's plus, and he knows he's so plus he can do this move. So that's kind of his Josie playstyle in a bit of a handbasket. You'll notice the big strength down there at the bottom of his strengths. No frames, no problem. He doesn't care. I mean, to him, -9 means he should probably do some sort of crushing move. That is, if he understands he's at -9. If he's super plus, whatever, he'll probably just stare at you in the neutral for a while, make it really awkward, and then the second you press a button, he's going to hit down forward too. That's the Irfan game. It's wild, it's crazy. I don't know what he's going to do. You don't know what he's going to do. He decides what he's going to do the second he does it. And that, my friends, is kind of why Irfan has gotten a bit of reputation of being a bit of a giant killer in bracket. He's taken down some pretty big names in bracket. Won't air any dirty laundry here, but there have been some pretty surprising wins in Zhang's Gaming's bi-weekly brackets. Pretty impressive, to be completely honest with you. So what are the weaknesses?
Oh yeah, I
for
mean,
Irfan?
I'm pretty sure he's beaten me of all people. Not that I'm saying I'm a
Yeah.
good player, but he does the what you're talking about, the awkward stare neutral. It got me, 100%.
He ain't
Yeah.
never beat me though. I know that much.
Hell yeah.
Well,
He ain't got me.
Not yet.
That's a mirror match of sorts. Anyways, moving on. So weaknesses for Irfan. Biggest one is you'll notice on the radar chart his biggest shortcoming, first of all, in knowledge, and then second is clutch. So let's address the clutch first. He is an absolute low health panicker, and that goes both ways. If he's on low health, if he has a pixel of health, or if you have a pixel of health, his entire game plan changes, and it's wild. And for that reason, he has been known to drop a good match here and there. Direct quote from Irfan: "Labbing is for super nerds." He told me that
True.
directly.
What did he call
And
me?
he,
Motherfucker.
he believes it. He believes labbing is for super nerds. He goes in the lab basically to, oh, hey, does this combo work? Oh, it does? Okay, cool. I'll use it online. I don't think he's ever turned on the frame indicator.
You gotta pay for that thing.
I don't think he's ever set the dummy to do anything. He just goes and grabs Josie, goes and grabs Hwoarang, grabs probably, what was it, Heihachi is the default 2P.
Yep.
Yeah, and rolls into whatever stage and just tests a quick combo. I think that's the extent he uses practice mode. And then finally, big weakness for Irfan, adaptability level predictaboo. He
Now-
does not adapt to matches well at all.
Can I throw a disclaimer there? I have seen Irfan adapt. Now, it's not impossible. He does get a bit predictable, but I think that when it comes down to it, there is that clutch factor he has somewhere buried inside. that
Somewhere
makes him-
inside, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
thing about Irfan is that the way he plays, since he doesn't know frame data, or maybe he does know frame data and he just ignores the shit. If you do not respect your own frames, you will lose. Irfan makes you respect yourself. You cannot get greedy. Your +4, that's a plus. That's a +2. That's a +1 because he's gonna press buttons regardless, and there's no way to guarantee you might get extra reward from making him respect frames. It's just not there. So I feel like if the other player, whoever he's playing, is just strict to the books, they would get very tilted at him due to when he presses buttons in the space he's allotted. And that's what makes him a great player. Like, he's good. Played Irfan a lot. His internet is kind of trash. That's helped because we always two-bar. But he's a good player. He makes you play the game. He makes you play the game at a respectable level, even though he's not playing it at a respectable level. You have to play tight because he will get you. It's true.
I
I think
respect that audacity. It's the highest audacity of all four of these players.
Oh yeah, he is an audacious player. It's hilarious. I mean, I've seen him butterfly kick into butterfly kick into butterfly kick at like range 3.
Well, man,
and the
let's-
third butterfly
let's
kick
talk-
will hit.
Let's talk about the Irfan Classic, the backlash into back 3.
Oh yeah, the backlash into back 3. That is the Irfan Classic with Hwoarang. He loves it. He absolutely loves it. It's the most hilarious thing to watch. And you know what? Shit works. The shit fucking works. I don't get it, but you know, hey, if he's stacking bodies with it, more power to the man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what Tekken's for.
I hope
Absolutely.
he's listening and he knows he needs to mix it up now because you guys just spoiled his shit.
Nah.
Fervent doesn't
Nah.
watch these.
The mix up for the next record.
Irfan is like Ruby. He's the other side of the scrub killer spectrum. He good. He good.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
So that's why I think this is going to be a really fun matchup, you know. So let's transition over to Fervent Four Eyes here.
Yeah.
So Fervent Four Eyes, people who don't know him, Lion's Den player, and you know, we talk a lot about the Lion's Den, about how you join the Lion's Den, you're going to learn you're going to learn the game, right? You're going to learn the fundamentals of the game, and you're going to grow as a player. And I think Fervent Four Eyes really represents kind of the up-and-comer type of Lion's Den player. I mean, just a really solid foundation of the game. One thing I noticed playing Fervent is he has a great jab. He jab checks very, very well for a mid red rank player, a back end red rank player. And on top of that, he executes with it very, very well. So I think that is something that's going to be really important for the Irfan matchup. For a guy who likes to just rush in, press a shit ton of buttons, somebody who has a great jab and can jab check, or use the jab to get good frames, I think is a really good recipe to start winning against a player like Irfan. But not only that, extremely patient player. He picks his spots very well. It's very strange playing as Hwoarang. You know, if you have the spectrum of wild ass Hwoarangs from speed kicks to Mad Dog Jin, he's definitely towards that speed kicks type end. Plays pretty defensive Hwoarang, picks his spots really well, rushes down at the appropriate times, doesn't take a whole lot of risk with his Hwoarang, which is very strange to play against. And I think might bode well against a player like Irfan, who actually has a decent understanding of Hwoarang as a character.
True.
So where's Fervent Four Eyes come up a little short in his weaknesses? He is very average in the neutral at ranges 1 to 1.5. I think a lot of that comes with the character he plays, or his main is Hwoarang. You know, Hwoarang beyond range 1, you know, it starts to get a little awkward. Not a whole lot of tools to reach out and touch people with. You know, and just that really strange feeling of, okay, if I want to use my tools, I got to get closer. So, you know, I think that's something that he could work on a little bit, but where I will take away points and say it's definitely a weakness is he has the same issue with Shaheen, who as a character really shouldn't have that same problem. In fact, I think that is a range, and being in the neutral is something Shaheen's very strong at. So playing as a secondary, you know, I'll still assign that as a weakness, but I think that is something that he's going to have to be on point with against a player like Irfan. And then finally, the last two weaknesses, something that you might expect out of some player of his skill level. He does play a little bit 2D. His sidesteps are usually very, very deliberate sidesteps, usually incorporating the sidestep to his game plan versus using it in any sort of reactionary type of manner or using it to adapt to anything. And then finally, his defense does lag a little bit behind his skill set. And when you get the swarm on Fervent Four Eyes, you get that vortex, you get that rush down, he does struggle to get control back out of the match. So I think that's something that Irfan really holds a really distinct advantage over. If he can get that Josie rush started, or if he plays Hwoarang and get that Hwoarang rush started, that could be the really big equalizer here in this matchup.
All right. Yeah. I haven't seen too much of Fervent Four Eyes play, but having Hwoarang as your main and Shaheen as your secondary is a very interesting matchup or match.
I'd like to hear from Dan on this. I mean, that is such a good ult, I think, for a Hwoarang player. Like, if you're in a tournament and you're like in a winners final or a grand final, you're in a grand final and you might have that reset set up. If you go from Hwoarang to Shaheen or from Shaheen to Hwoarang, that's got to be really difficult to adapt to as an opponent.
No, absolutely. I mean, they're both very similar in how safe they are, but Shaheen is definitely the better spacer. So I feel like if he's playing a spacing style Hwoarang, I bet his spacing with Shaheen is just really crazy. Those jab checks will probably be super important. But I mean, maybe he feels like he can use his hop kick a little bit more, but it doesn't sound like he's that type of player.
Yeah, he does. Having played him a few times, he does use that hop kick. He uses it. He uses it decently, I think. He does throw it out sometimes at a little bit of an unsafe period of time, but I think he's a little bit more prone to be a little less safe with Shaheen with his hop kick, just simply due to the fact it's such a damn good hop kick,
I do feel like both of them playing Hwoarang kind of either takes him off of the table altogether, or someone who doesn't know the other one plays Hwoarang may end up with a bigger struggle than they expect. Could entirely throw off the meta.
Certainly, and I think if we were to see Hwoarang mirror matches, it would be wild, because both of them play Hwoarang just very, very differently than a lot of people expect. Irfan has this like super aggressive rush down Josie. His Hwoarang is not nearly as aggressive. Like, he really likes launches and weird situations with Hwoarang. Like, he likes to reach out and like do surprise launches with back three versus getting in and doing all the flamingo bullshit. Whereas you have Fervent, who's just like the super safe type of Hwoarang who really picks his spots. So it might just be one of the most awkwardly awesome matchups we could see tonight, is Irfan Hwoarang versus Fervent Hwoarang.
It might just come down to it, from what I'm hearing, who can mash the best. And I'm putting Irfan on it. I'm giving my prediction to Irfan, mainly because he can pull shit out of his ass in neutral amazingly. He's the GOAT at that. He's one of the best players I've seen do that. Just get what he want in neutral. When you shouldn't get it, that's him. That's him. So if Fervent can just play a nice game, maybe he'll win. But if he lags any bit, might just be up to Irfan.
Right on. If you remember, like all the Tekken characters have that little tagline, like Hwoarang's was Blood Talon. Yeah, I think Irfan's would be Surprise Motherfucker.
That's funny.
I think our best situation would be to see Irfan playing Josie versus Fervent Hwoarang. I think that would be the most interesting matchup. Irfan, using the aggression that she has, and then seeing Fervent play this defensive Hwoarang. I think the range. I just don't see the Shaheen game playing out the same way as if Fervent was able to generate any sort of like pick and choose attack with some patience with Hwoarang. I think Josie Hwoarang's what I want to see.
And I think we'll see that.
How well does Hwoarang's play style translates to playing Shaheen, because I'm not saying anything bad about Harung players, but I do not think Harung players are
say
the
it.
most well-rounded. I don't think they're the most well-rounded players out there. Like, out of Harungs, they might not have the fundamentals somebody else might have playing a different character, since it's not necessarily a down four one type character. So, but what I know of Shaheen is that he's a very basic. You do your down 4-1, you do your jab, you do your down 4, and you play the game. Play a honest game outside of the slide 50. So I want to see how a Harung player would be able to play that type of game against somebody who's just going crazy. That's something I would like to see.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if the ult comes up, we'll definitely see it, you know. And I think Fervent is probably the only Hwoarang player I'd say who might be able to make that seamless transition. But I think that's yet to come, if it comes at all. So be exciting to see.
Oh yeah. Well, and with that, we shall move on to our second match. Let's see what we got
All right.
here. Or our first match, technically.
Yep.
Which would be Just a Spirit in John 3 of the 16.
Yes, sir. So I am really hyped for this match because I think this is as close as you can get to a player versus player mirror match. Both of these guys are relatively in the same skill level, in terms of rank. Not that rank is a great indicator for things, but both in the late stages of blue ranks. I believe Spirit is a Raijin, and I believe John 3:16 is a Yaxa, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, in terms of skill level, very, very, very similar skill levels, but also in their play style and a lot of their traits as a player. As you look at these two radar charts, very, very similar. They only differ in one spot. Both of them just have really great matchup knowledge. John 3:16, we call him Nikujin for a reason, because he just plays all sorts of players and he just has all sorts of foundational knowledge of all of these characters. Just a Spirit, if you don't know who he is, he's a Florida-based streamer, runs a really cool stream. Every time I jump on his stream and watch him, he's not playing any of his mains. He's playing some random fucking character just to learn what they do. And oftentimes we'll have somebody in chat who's, a follower or a subscriber basically walking him through the character. So he just knows a ton of these matchups. So you both have great knowledge coming to this match. Both these players move very, very well. Both these players execute pretty well. They both play a very, 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 very solid neutral game. For those of you who have played John 3:16 and Minnesota Tekken, his neutral game can be absolutely infuriating at times. It's hard to bump him off. It's when he gets frames in the neutrals, they're sometimes very, very hard to get back. But let's talk about the fundamental differences in these two players. So first of all, John 3:16, biggest weakness is you play him in casual matchups, you play him in a lobby, he's playing at a very, very high level. Throw him into a competition, whether it be a bracket or an FT10, we have seen John 3:16's clutch factor and his execution factor go down. Maybe it's competition nerves, maybe it's being a little bit immature when it comes to competition, but that is the biggest fundamental weakness in Nikujin's game. In terms of Just a Spirit, I think it is his punishment lags a little bit behind the rest of his skill level, which I think at his stage, I think it starts to be a really, really, really glaring weakness, because punishment, getting that maximum damage that you can, really starts to add up when you're playing against really, really solid players, and you just can't get away with cheese. And then finally, he can be a little bit risk averse, kind of the opposite there, right? Sometimes in Tekken 7's a game you got to cheese sometimes. But he is definitely a player who just doesn't really like to do it. He plays the game extremely clean. And then finally, for Just a Spirit, I'll say there is a bit of a noticeable gap from his mains. You can see both of these players, Lee mains, but Just a Spirit, his secondaries are basically your Mishimas, Whereas with John 316 secondaries, he can play a lot of characters, but I'd say his strongest secondary characters to bring into a competitive type of setting, Jack 7 and Law. But in terms of weaknesses from John 316, aside from his big drop, skill drop in competition, is a little bit has a little bit of a tendency to flowchart his defense a couple of times. Sidesteps, ducks at very certain, very hard set times where he has a reaction that he's going to do, and then sometimes he can overcommit a little bit in terms of trying to cheese something, or I guess going for that a little bit of extra damage in that one situation where maybe he could play a little bit safer.
Oh yeah. Let's see. Do you guys have any input about how that could affect the matchup at all? I know that when it comes to learning a lot of character knowledge, specifically with Justice Spirits, love punishment. Punishes are super important. You have to get as much damage as you can. That'll end the round faster. And people are just giving things away. You want to be taking it.
He punishes like an Ana player.
Oh.
It is. Yes. When I played both of these players, and in bracket, I've played against Nick's John 316's Jack 7. I feel like his Jack 7 is the worst of his three characters. I feel like his Law is better than his Jack 7, and I played against Justice Spirits Lee. Now, when I see his Lee, he likes to put a lot of kicks out to create a fence. But if you could space him or just delay your approach, you will get in. And if you get in on Justice Spirit, he'll probably fold. He would fold. He'll start stepping predictably. Now, looking at John 316's Lee, I have never seen his Lee. I have seen his Law, and his Law it's a good Law. If he see you can't deal with a string, he'll abuse the string. I learned the string because of him playing him in the first 10. He taught me the string. So, I personally playing both of them, I think that John 316 is the better player. Just off of my experience with both of these guys, because Heroics, Justice Spirit was really eating, he was just eating a lot of down fours. I don't think he can low parry actually, and I know that John 316 can protect his feet, and I think that'll be a big part is how they play defense and protect their feet from each other. Playing characters like Lee, who has good chip loads, what can lead into counter hits, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that might be a big dispositive factor. I mean, John 316 loves the lows. Loves them.
That's my boy.
And he is great at reading them as well. And that's another strength I forgot to mention. Here's the thing with John 316. If you play King or a grappler, just give up, because you're never going to get damage against John 316. The dude breaks all the throws. It's fucking wild. I don't know how he does it. But, I'd like to hear Dan's input here on some of these character matchups.
First, I'm looking at this audacity for Nick, and I'm like, what? That dude plays hella safe. When I see Nick, I mean, he's usually focused on the risk versus reward, which is applaudable, but I do think he probably needs to take that free damage. Like, if he's got someone near the wall and he's always doing the Law DSS forward 1, I mean, they're never going to duck that. Their back's to a wall. Go ahead and take that free shit.
All right.
True. Especially if you got someone who's not punishing stuff very well or not going for the low parries like Chuzo was saying. But there was someone else that he plays too that I think he's pretty strong with. Is it Kazuya? I actually think he's all right with Kazuya. And I think his experience as Kazuya. I think that might pay off if Justice Spirit tries to play Mishimas. I think he's got a little bit there too. I really don't know much about Justice Spirit, but I'll say that I think that this is probably, just based on your guys' descriptions, not going to come down to necessarily the block punish. I think it's going to come down to whiff punishing, because I mean, I would say that Nick's pretty good at whiff punishing, and it sounds like Juza's saying that Justice Spirit throws him out. So
He will throw it out if you pressure him. He will try to put a wall up. Yeah.
But it just depends how strong his keep out is, because maybe he's just that good at it too.
Nah, he's not that good at it.
No respect.
Yeah. You ever played him before, Juza? I think you said you had earlier.
Yeah, I'm looking at our set. I'm looking at our set right now.
Oh. Damn.
But I would say if he's not block punishing very well, he's probably not whiff punishing very well too. And I think if you let someone, like, let's say he's playing Jack, get away with too many down forward twos or something, I mean, there's going to be issues.
Yeah. I think if he plays Lee, he can forward 2-1 that. So hopefully we see that from him.
Mm-hmm.
How long ago was that match, Juza?
That was back in February.
February?
16th.
Oh, man. I've followed this guy for the last several months, and I'll tell you what, the guy has massively improved his game in the last 6 months.
Okay.
Okay, I think you might be relying on old data.
Oh, I'm relying on other wells. So I'm only relying on what I got, man.
I gotta go get some more.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely find out tonight one way or the other.
All right, and then that will move us on to our final slide, the predictions for the night. What do you guys think is gonna happen? How do you think the tale is gonna play out?
I mean, I'll share since mine are right up on the screen. Irfan versus Fervent. I think Irfan plays 90% of the time as Josie. He hasn't been playing Hwoarang nearly as much in the last year or so. Hwoarang makes an appearance, but Josie's really been Irfan's main squeeze. So I think 90% of his playtime in this FD10 will be Josie. I do think he owns the early to mid game based on a lot of shock value. I don't think Fervent has, to my knowledge, has ever played on a regular basis somebody like Irfan. So I think Irfan's just going to take a lot of those early rounds. But I do think the fundamental knowledge and the fundamental abilities as a player that Fervent exhibits is going to give him a very strong mid game, and he's going to be able to make those adjustments. I do think he runs away with this FD10 in the mid to late game. Final score 10-6 Fervent, but I do want to add one thing. Irfan will bring out the Hwoarang at least once, just because he's going to want the mirror match, just for the shits and giggles. And then moving on to Justice Spirit versus John 316, I think with the myriad of characters that these guys can play, we're going to see at least 5 make their appearance. I think Lee's going to make his appearance, absolutely. We're going to see at least 2 Mishimas, we're going to see Jack 7, and we're going to see Martial Law. We're going to see at least those 5 characters. I do think Spirit takes the early lead, based on my understanding of how these players play. I think Spirit just kind of takes control of the early rounds. But I do think the moment that John 316 brings out the Law, I think it creates a lot of problems for Justice Spirit. With just the raw strength of John 316's Law and his ability to use that character really, really well, especially in a long set, I do think that is going to be one of the big dispositive factors here. But that said, I think we're going to see at least 3 Lee versus Lee mirrors. But ultimately, I think this comes down to John 316 and a 10-7.
I agree.
You agree?
No, I'm gonna say 10-5 John 316.
10-5 John 316. What about Irfan and Fervent? Do you have a prediction there?
Now, I would like to see Irfan win, but that match, that match is a coin flip. That match is gonna be a fun match, but if the stars align, it's definitely Irfan's match. It's definitely his match.
All right.
I believe in Irfan too. I think I think that Irfan's gonna force. I think Fervent's gonna play Hwoarang the whole time, and Irfan will play Josie. But I think that Irfan will start taking a lead, and it'll make Fervent kind of squirm a bit and switch to Shaheen. And then I don't think he's gonna have the same thing with Shaheen as he does with Hwoarang, and he's gonna fold underneath Irfan's Josie, and it's just gonna nail it down to like a 10-2 or something.
All right, 10-2. Wow.
Yeah. And then as far as Justice Spirit, I've heard the name Justice Spirit before, honest. I just haven't seen him play, but I've heard the name whispered around. And I've seen John play recently as probably the best version of himself. You know, he still makes those errors every once in a while. Like the other day, I watched him in his first attempt with another player on a different stream, and he used Jack's debugger at the end of the round. And he could have used the blue version of it to keep it safe, but he used the normal version and got launched for it.
Oh.
and that just seems that was like a mind fart or whatever. Like, oh, could have done that there. But you know, as soon as he was reminded of it, because I was in his DMs letting him know, like, hey, fucking idiot. But once he was reminded, you know, he put it away. Like, he didn't forget a single time. And I feel like he's gonna do. I feel like he's been trying to, you know, shore up his weaknesses. And as far as Justice Spirit's play style, the keep out with the kicks, and he gets the predictable sidestepping when you get forward, get in or whatever. I feel like John is capable of sniffing that out, in that he's done that. You know, he's been there. He's been that person. I don't think he is that way so much anymore, but I think he's very capable of seeing it. So I'm gonna say probably like a 10-8 John 316. That one's gonna be a close one.
All right. You know, I didn't even think about this before, but if you guys want a benchmark of Justice Spirit, of kind of where he's at, he recently had an FT10 with Lucho-Han.
Lucho-chan?
Yeah.
Oh, did he beat him?
He beat Lucho-chan 10-2.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
He flexed up.
All right, well, it's gonna be 10-3 Justice Spirit.
Damn.
I'm just kidding. No, I stand by my prediction. I think John is just as good as any of these other dudes. Honest.
Oh yeah.
Any given Sunday. I mean, any good given Thursday.
No, any given Sunday. Hell, or yeah, Thursday. Sorry, you're right.
What do we got from the Dan Rooney?
Yeah, Dan, what are you thinking over there?
All right, so I haven't seen either Justice Spirit or Fervent Four Eyes, so I've been sitting here taking in your guys' perspective, and then I'm looking at the matchups and everything. So based on what I'm hearing, if Irfan can control the matchup, I feel like he's going to win. So it's going to be kind of dependent on how well he uses his lows. I'm expecting to see that new cheap Josie low or something. I also get
Irfan doesn't know 1+4 exists.
Oh, he knows they exist.
Oh,
I'll
he
tell you
does?
this. He hates the move. He thinks it sucks, which is hilarious.
You're not seeing that.
No, that move's
He
cheap.
That move is really good too. That's the funny part.
Yeah,
But-
I know.
When I hear all this, I think Irfan is definitely capable. Like, he might have his you guys talked about his adaptability. He might have his moments where he's not, but I do think he also gets on good tracks too. So like, if he's controlling the track, I think he can work people down it pretty well too. So I want to say, based on what you guys are saying, if he can control it, he's going to win. So I'm going to give it like a 6-4 Irfan. But if Fervent doesn't, like, he isn't forced to, respect anything, and I think he can take Irfan out of his track. For Justice Spirit versus John, I do think whiffs are going to be the thing, but I'm also thinking that Nick also gets in his head. So if he loses like 2 in a row or 3 in a row, I do think that he sometimes kind of like struggles to replace his meta, if that makes sense.
No,
So-
that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I think if he gets into one of those funks, it's going to be how fast can he get back to where he was. Because if he loses 2 or 3, then I think he might give away a free one before he gets back. So I think he needs to be up early. I want to do this, like, from what it sounds like, more like a 6-4 for Justice Spirit, but I kind of also believe in Nick too, so I want to give this 7-3 Nikujin. Well, it's out of 10, right? So I'll do the 10-7.
All right.
10-7 Nikojin? Alright. Wow.
But he's gonna have to go cutthroat.
Nice. Well, sounds like that's all we got. All we gotta see now is what'll happen to the players. You gotta have them play.
I will just say, I just want to boost our competitors here today. You can find Fervent Four Eyes on YouTube. Drops a lot of good content, a lot of his matches, a lot of his Lions Den matches, so you can check him out a little bit before the FT10 if you want to see what he's all about. And Justice Spirit _ after the T. You can find him on Twitch. Definitely check him out. Runs a great stream. Really cool community. Really fun stuff to watch. He's also a big commentator down in the Florida FGC area, so he gets his definite work in, and he was gracious enough to accept my invitation to take on this FT10 tonight. So please, if you can, check out Justice Spirit, check out Fervent, support him, and yeah, looking forward to everything else.
Shout out Juicy Game Night. Shout out them.
Hell yeah. Juicy Game Night. But yeah, look up Justice Spirit and Fervent Four Eyes. It'll be good for you. Alright, and with that, I will say adieu to everybody. Anybody else have some final words they want to say? At all?
Let's get ready to rumble.
Alright. And with that, we'll see you tonight, everybody. Have a good evening.